Hi, art historians. So, I would like to create this week 4 summary video and congratulate you for making it halfway through our course. So, let's start first with a absolute thank you message for fixing and filling out those grade calculation sheets. I really hope that it was able to give you all a little bit of a better understanding as to your progress so far in class, and kind of really get a really good grip as to what assignments and grades you've earned have led you to the score that you currently have, and then we can make a plan going forward for the rest of the course. And I did want to do this before the actual halfway point where we're at right now, because I have been getting some questions from you all in regards to the approach for how to accumulate points in this class to get the score that you're looking for. And so with all those questions coming in, I just decided now is a good time to all get on the same page. And so thank you so much for doing that. I left very extensive comments on each of your submissions, or if you emailed it to me. So please go ahead and take a look at those. Otherwise, really great work, everybody. So, for week 4, we covered Greece 1, 2, and 3, as well as the Etruscan era. So, in ancient Greece, you learned about the geometric stage, the archaic stage, we've got classical and Hellenistic, and then, of course, we have Etruscan, which I consider kind of like pre-Rome, which we're going to dive into during week 5. So what we're looking at here is a couple of quizzes for this particular week. We had a great discussion. We also had an exam and a writing assignment in addition to those self-guided explorations. So let's just really cover everything that we talked about and summarize some of the learning materials from this week. So first and foremost, I want to reiterate, folks, that the notes and discussion assignments as well as the formal analysis paper are not optional for this class. We need to complete those. Please. I was really disappointed to see that not everybody had responded to that discussion, and this is the way to ensure that you have some kind of interaction with your peers and have conversations about art history. Though we are all, of course, learning from a distance, we can still participate in that conversation, and that is done through the discussion. So please, folks, make sure you're going in and answering the questions, or taking a look at those works of art and sharing with your classmates what you discovered and what you noticed. I go in and comment on each of yours, or our wonderful teaching intern, Sarah Eller, will do the same. So please look for those comments, give each other feedback on each other's posts, so that way we can get that communication and conversation going. So please don't forget to do that. But speaking of discussions, I would like to give some shout outs. Please ignore the noise in the background. My 2 crazy cats currently have the zoomies as I've just returned home from school. So I wanted to give a shout out to some of the people who decided to take a very long look at the Achilles and Ajax playing dice vase. So Maddie brought up the concept of this metaphorical battle. It was felt that there was kind of like this really intense armor that these characters were wearing in this vase, and so you have to think about, are we really battling dice, or are we battling in kind of a larger sense? And I thought the fact that Maddie pointed that out was really special. This is Dolly. Oh, there she goes. She is named after Salvador Dali. Don't know if I've mentioned this to you all. She is my favorite thing in the whole world and currently losing her mind. But regardless, Maddie, awesome job making that metaphorical connection there. I think that was so strong. Then we also had Allison, who looked at Achilles and Ajax as well, who really felt that this was a story of fate and strategy. And I love that you found those two kind of elements there. I definitely agree that that black on red almost does create that sense of tension. I hadn't thought about looking at this work that way before, so thank you so much for opening my eyes to viewing it this way. I also want to give our teaching intern credit there as well. Sarah Eller totally agrees with what you wrote, Allison. I really think that suggestive comparative study between this piece and others would be super interesting. So great job all around, folks. Now, some other folks out there decided to focus on some different pieces in our ancient Greek unit. Bobby, for example, wanted to focus on the peplos chore, and it was commented about her color. And I have to agree, how you look at these pieces with just the plain marble versus what they would have been looked like with paint, it really changes the impression we get. I mean, I think of ancient Greece and Rome with exclusively just white marbles, but that was not often the case. If you look at the Carpino corner for this unit, you'll see that I was able to go to an exhibition at the Met that did show us what these pieces most likely would have looked like with their color on them, and the peplos chore is a great example. Jesse also felt that the piece looks better without the color, so I kind of totally agree with that, to be honest. And then we have Chase, who decided to take a deeper look at the Parthenon, which I think is a very valuable piece to focus on. It is incredibly impressive that this thing is still standing. I mean, take a look at the history with the Persians and the fact that it's been through all kinds of situations and battles and explosions. So, I mean, the fact that we have any of it is kind of pretty awesome, and I think that makes it really special. And Allison and Tori also totally agreed with this. Total wow moment that the Parthenon is still there for us to see today. Awesome job, folks. All right, so now let's talk a little bit more about the quizzes. I'll go into the exam a little bit, and then I'll give some just general announcements going forward. So, those quizzes. I really want to make sure that we're thinking about the phrasing of the multiple choice questions. I feel as though some of the answers that were more consistently marked incorrect in the quiz statistics side of my access to Canvas, it was just a matter of clarifying a few little words. So please, use the full extent of the time that you have for these quizzes. Make sure you're really reading the question and ensuring that you're choosing the response that matches with what it is asked. So on quiz 6, we wanted to know what defines the style of the geometric crater. And a lot of you wrote that there was these mythological scenes. And that is very true on our geometric crater. But folks, it's asking about style, not the content, not the story or the context about the piece, the style. And so the answer we were looking for was geometric shapes and abstract patterns, because we're thinking about the geometric crater in the geometric time frame of ancient Greece. So, good thing to keep in mind. And then in quiz 7, I noticed that a good amount of you put that the dying Gaul sculpture represented triumph. But unfortunately, the answer here is suffering. And so now if this is a case of, forgotten function, you can't remember exactly what the dying Gaul was or what the story was behind that, because art history has a lot of information and we can't remember everything. Make sure you pay attention to the wording, right? Like I suggested, the phrasing. We can really quite educatedly assume that dying Gaul means that their figure is probably not doing so well and not feeling any of those feelings of triumph. He is suffering. He is dying. And so that's something that you should really pay attention to. Think about the wording of things and what's going to lead you to choosing those best responses. Because in this case, we were really thinking about the actual emotion of the piece, which of course is definitely on the suffering side, since our friend is not doing in great shape. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up for quiz 7 was the sarcophagus of the spouses, or the sarcophagus of the reclining couple. Now, a lot of you chose that this piece represented the theme of mortality in the afterlife. However, we're not looking at the function of the piece. The function of the piece, this is a sarcophagus, so absolutely some kind of remains would go in this particular cavity of the opening of that exact sarcophagus that we're looking at, but we're not thinking about the function of this piece. We're thinking about the theme. And you have to remember, the Etruscans viewed death very differently from the earlier societies that we talked about. The ancient Egyptians were essentially preparing their living life here on earth for the afterlife, but the Etruscans treated it as a celebration. So the theme of this piece, not the function, is companionship and love, which is really, really interesting to see that couple together and enjoying and being together in that sense of camaraderie and, that deep appreciation you have for a spouse or a loved one. And so that's why that answer would have been correct for this response. So, speaking of quizzes, let's talk about the exam. I want to congratulate a lot of you. You did so well on this. There was even a couple hundreds in there, which is incredibly impressive. truly hats off to you all. I felt like the multiple choice was kind of all over the place. We had some really good, tackling of those questions and analyzing what answers were correct, while maybe some of us moved a little bit too quickly. So this is really important to keep in mind going forward. You must save time for those essay questions at the end of your exam. I really went through and looked at what you wrote and graded, and some of you didn't even get the chance to get to those, or it looks like you might have gotten cut off by that time. So please, 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 work your way through and make sure you leave yourself enough time to get that writing in. I can't give any points for nothing, but if you get some partial information, you could earn a few points back. So keep that in mind for our second exam when we get to week 8. So one thing I really want to make sure that we're paying attention to, if the question says full sentences, I kind of mean it. I did take points off if you put the identification of the works in bullet points, because that last question, the 30.1, did specifically ask for full sentences. So make sure you're really just taking care to follow the instructions of the question to the best of your ability. Now, there was a couple of maybe things that we might have gotten incorrect. So the first one I wanted to point out was the Apollo 11 stones. What was the function of this? Well, I could definitely make an argument for daily life. We know at the end of the day, we don't have enough background on this piece to defend that answer to the fullest extent. And so that's why the simple observation would be the correct answer for that one. Taking a look at the votive offering definition, I want to give you all the credit in the world. 100% of you got that one right. So I'm so thrilled to know that that definition sticks out so strongly in your brains. Congratulations, everybody. We definitely know that one. As well as the Tut's innermost coffin and mummy. So that one we also got 100% correctly, and really good job, everybody. That was very impressive. So now the last thing I want to mention, I see that your writing assignments have also been submitted. That is definitely an extra thing for me to be working on grading this week. So usually when I post this video, I say that all the grades have been updated until this point, but I am working on those writing assignments. So please have a little bit of patience, and I promise my goal is to get this done by the end of the week at the very latest, but I'd really like to have these done by Wednesday, if possible. Otherwise, going forward, folks, my really 2 big reminders, I need you all to be using that template for those self-guided explorations. I sent that out quite early in the semester, and I ask that we use it going forward. I will continue to comment on your submissions if they aren't submitted with that template, that they do need to be resubmitted with the template in use. So if you see that, please make note of it and make sure you resubmit. And I'll make sure I go in and update those grades when you do so. No points lost, but I really want to stick to formatting throughout the entire course, and especially for what is consistently happening in other sections of this course that are being taught as well. And last but not least, folks, those note sheets, really make sure you're filling in every single section to get those full points. And we need to make sure we're completing 1 note sheet for every core work at minimum, and maybe 1 or 2 supplemental if you could please. So I hope you all enjoyed the first half of this class, leading us up to the precursor of Rome. Moving forward, we'll continue to just work. We have our grading calculation sheets to know what sort of approach we want to take. And now we know to use those self-guided templates, as well as filling out all the notes, so that way we get full credit for that as well. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm really, really grateful and thankful for all the hard work you all have been doing. It does not go unnoticed. I am acknowledging it so thoroughly right now. Reading yourself guided explorations and your reflection on these things, interacting with you all in the discussion, it really makes it feel as though we are somewhat of a step closer to having an in-person class despite us being online. So all that effort into those categories is duly noted and very well appreciated. So thank you, everybody. I hope week 4 went well and we're progressing okay in week 5. Reach out if you need anything, and we'll touch base soon. Bye!